So Planet Peterson introduce himself first, and then we'll have the negative Andrew introduce himself as well. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Planet. Do whatever plugs you want to do, and then we'll have Andrew do the same, and then we'll move into the introductions.
Yeah, sure. Planet Peterson. I was a science teacher for about 10 years. Now I kind of do this. I mostly try to talk about what I'm known for is debating people that just reject basic science, like the shape of the earth, whether or not evolution is true, stuff like that. I'd prefer not to talk about religion and politics all that much, but it gets brought up by people. So my name is Eric. Andrew, I have no idea if you knew that, but just call me Eric. It's so much easier to say than Planet Peterson. But that is my handle, so you can find me on mostly.
Is your last name Peterson? Is that what that is? Yeah. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just curious.
No, that's totally fine. I mean, that's basically it. I don't do too many plugs. So mostly on YouTube, Planet Peterson. I am on TikTok. I do live streams on there on the weekends. I do have 2 books out. This is Mirrored, but Facts That Aren't True is my newest book. Bunch of popular myths, misconceptions, old wives' tales, and rumors. And my first book is Rational Answers to Stupid Questions. So you can find those in links on my YouTube videos and stuff like that. But that's about it.
And then Andrew?
Yeah, my name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the host of The Crucible. It's a popular entertainment channel on YouTube. I engage in conversations and debates basically all over the world on a huge variety of various topics. I'm glad to be here today. I appreciate Mr. Peterson coming out to do the debate. I know that we got a bit heated in our back and forth DMs, but I think that's all part of how this works, right? So it is what it is. Happy to have a moderated formal debate. I haven't had that in a while. It's always nice to kind of go back. I almost consider that to be old school now instead of the old blood sports. So anyway, you can find my YouTube channel, The Crucible. Just type it in. It'll pull right up. And you can also find me on Twitter at PaleoChristCon.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me know when you're ready, Eric, and I'll start the timer.
I am going to be ready in 3, 2, 1. Okay.
You now have just 10 minutes.
Let me open up a timer. Okay. So Andrew and I and Taco, we clarified this kind of behind the scenes and setting this up. But so the topic is Christianity shouldn't be in government. But we clarified government means the United States government. So Andrew doesn't have to defend some random country's government. And I don't have to defend the general concept of government because that would make the debate impossible and pointless for both sides. A theocracy is a kind of government. So arguing Christianity shouldn't be in a Christian theocracy would be pointless. It would also be pointless to argue, does Christianity belong in a Islamic theocracy? So we agreed on that. So the United States government, it's a constitutional republic. That's a form of government where citizens elect representatives to make decisions, and the government is limited by a written constitution. Our government has features. Citizens elect representatives. They're represented in the Congress. And then there are specific limitations on the government. This means that we kind of know what the type of government we have does and how it functions. Not how it ought to function, but just how it does function. So to make it a little bit easier, I'm just going to draw kind of an analogy. Compare the government to some other sort of system, because governments are systems. So like an engine transfers mechanical power. There's no such thing as the correct engine, but you can still compare engines that transfer mechanical power, because that's the task of an engine, and then see which one is better at that task. Or we could say something like as basic as drawing a straight line. We're not saying you should draw straight lines, but just that that's what you're trying to do. A ruler does that very, very well, whereas a compass does that horribly. So we can't derive oughts from is's here, but we can still measure normative objectives, and more importantly, we can point out contradictions. In this case, the claim that a compass is good at drawing straight lines, it's not really a contradiction, but it is literally not true, and a ruler is definitely objectively better in this sense. So back to constitutional republics. A constitutional republic that disenfranchises people and violates its own constitution is clearly one that doesn't work, because that's the opposite of what they are. So I'm not here to tell you that there's a correct type of government, that I know exactly what it is, or that Christianity in government would be like objectively the worst option or anything like that. But we can prove that Christianity should be in government is false in the same way that a compass is good at drawing a straight line is a false statement. So point number one is that we literally know for a fact that religiosity positively correlates with dysfunctionality. You can read about this in scientific and other academic journals. I do have some studies. I can link those or share my screen later. I'm happy to do that. Point number two is that the framers of the Constitution, I don't think they were idiots. They studied this and they thought about it extensively, and they understood that no religion can make a claim that is legitimate to rule that can be acceptable. Even in a Christian nationalist's wildest dreams, this could never work because, well, if we became a Catholic theocracy, well, then Protestants would lose their minds. They wouldn't get what they want out of this. So what is it that you do then when you can't Christianize Islam, you can't Judaize Christianity, you can't Catholicize Protestantism? You make compromises instead. And that's what limited powers do. And that's exactly what happened. Madison drafted the First Amendment and its Establishment Clause. Now, Christians, in an attempt for confirmation bias, they try to, they go with this mantra of, no, separation in church of church and state. That was something Jefferson said in a letter. It's not actually in the Constitution. But what I suggest you do is that you should read what the Christian, Madison was a Christian, so this is, you could argue this is a Christian perspective. He's the one that wrote the amendment, and when asked what it means, or the Establishment Clause, when asked what it means, he said, Congress should not establish a religion and enforce the legal observation of it by law, nor compel men to worship God in any manner contrary to their conscience. So according to the United States Constitution, Christian ethics are forbidden from being part of government. A national religion creates dysfunctional or a dysfunctional government. In other words, it's a compass, not a ruler. So Andrew's position, I think, would be illegal. So I'm not really sure where, I mean, kind of good luck with that, I guess. I don't think Andrew respects people who loot and riot, cross the border illegally, or violate the Constitution in any other way. So I don't know. Well, I'm curious to see what we're going to hear, but that's an issue I think we have. And then the last thing is, the point of how I set this up is that governments are systems, and systems they have a certain function, and that function, if you want to discuss or describe how it ought to work or how it should work, what the best way to make it work is, these are just normative claims. So I'm not really here to talk about objective ethics or morality or anything like that. But if Andrew does try to do that, I'm not really sure that Andrew has the argument. But even if he did, we have the problem of arbitrariness, and you can't derive an ought from an is. So I'm not really sure how Andrew's going to try to prescribe Christianity being in government. He's perfectly welcome to use, because this is what I will try to do. He's perfectly welcome to use any normative claims for what Andrew wants to see happen in government and why he thinks maybe Christianity will help with that. But I think they're going to contradict both the religion and the government in question. And we'll see whatever it is, or later that whatever normative objectives Andrew believes Christianity brings, and those would be his reasons for wanting it in government. I think that there are serious and literal contradictions in almost all of them. So that's my opening statement.
Cool. Are you ceding the rest of your time?
Yeah, that was under 7 minutes, so I cede the rest of my time.
Perfect. Andrew, let me know when you're ready, and I'll start the timer.
Yeah, I have 10 minutes, correct?
Yes, sir. Are you ready?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Cool. You have 10 minutes starting now.
And Craig FTFE. When offered the same debate with the same prompts so he could prove it, our good friend Mr. Peterson did decline. I just want to point that out. Instead, demanding that we do a debate where I needed to, quote, convince him Christianity needed to be in government. When I said that was fine, if I could do the same thing to him in secularism, he also declined. He also, strangely enough, told his audience some false things, and I just want to clear those up very quickly. Mr. Peterson didn't demand this format of debate, so I couldn't evade questions. Rather, we were doing the format that Taco himself does every single debate I have seen him host, and the same format that Taco requested to begin with. So I have no idea why Mr. Peterson made that up, but he did. Perhaps to sound like he got me in some kind of format I'm not used to, but he's going to find out better tonight. Now to the debate itself. Mr. Peterson has the affirmative that Christianity shouldn't be in government. He qualified American government, which I agree to. He just went over that himself. I'm completely uninterested in any tangential debate that Mr. Peterson actually wants to have, which is just God isn't real, though, which means nothing in this debate. To start with, I'd like to bring up the country most libs point to as the happiest in the world, Finland. In the happiest country in the world, there exist 2 state churches. Yes, that's right, 2. Both of these bodies have the ability to levy taxes. The taxes paid by members of the 2 churches and the rates determined on the parish level. While the government collects the taxes, the 2 churches pay for the cost of collecting them and receive the amounts paid. These go to fund the maintenance, repair of churches and public services such as record keeping, funeral services, and many others. We would call this a form of symphonia in Orthodoxy. The idea of the church working hand in hand with the state, represented by a 2-headed eagle. Now, here in the USA, you can imagine that the government levying a tax at the behest of the church and then collecting it along with normal income taxes would be something Mr. Peterson wouldn't like very much. It's an example of the church and government working just fine. But wait, there's more. Since these are 2 different churches, one, the Orthodox Church, the other, a Lutheran church, you would think there would be significant social problems. He brought this up in his opening. Quite the contrary. That's odd considering their dogmas and doctrines are so removed from each other, isn't it? Yet, by all accounts, these 2 bodies, while they engage in rigorous debate, generally work hand in hand towards the general good and welfare of the peoples of their nation. Mr. Peterson will claim in this debate that there are so many different denominations of religions. How did I predict that? How could we possibly choose which one would represent us? Yet, all of those denominations exist in Finland, and they're doing fine. The happiest people on earth, supposedly. Yet, they have Buddhism, Hindus, Jews, Catholics, Anglicans, Islamics, all under the same roof of a nation, with 2 denominations being officially recognized as state churches, and those churches having a say in actual policy making. This should be some kind of nightmare for Mr. Peterson, but it seems to work so good that they're the happiest people in the world. Go figure. Now to U.S. policy, try to understand that our nation itself isn't divorced from religion any more than Finland, and never has been. There's simply an establishment clause saying the federal government can't favor one religion over another or prohibit the free exercise of it. Interestingly, they still can. One way is they simply don't recognize a religion as valid, and they do this by not recognizing the church as legitimate and not recognizing them as a church and giving them the same status as other churches. Which, by the way, they do all the time. The IRS has official rules for what a church is. In fact, it includes creeds, forms of worship. It's super extensive. Now to the arguments themselves for Christianity being in government. One, the early history of the United States is one that tells a different story than modern secularists would have you believe, like Mr. Peterson. The founders in shaping this constitutional republic referenced Deuteronomy more than any other philosophy. This study was cited by the American Political Science Review and is noted by the C.S. Lewis Institute, who remarked this. This is also a book that records God's dealings with the chosen nation, especially in establishing the political and legal institutions necessary to govern a nation. Now, we can find text in the New Testament that deals with government. Think Romans 13, for example, and it gives us a sense of the duties of citizenship and the like. But what we find in the book of Moses and in that condensed version of Deuteronomy is the nuts and bolts of how do you make the establishment of a nation. This is direct proof, by the way, end quote. This is direct proof the Bible was indeed used heavily to determine government structure itself. My second argument is that most states that are founding already had state religions, and that you had to swear oaths to Christianity to even hold office. The Constitution was ratified 1788, and there were still states with official state religions, which makes it laughable that under the 10th Amendment, they didn't allow states to have state religions, because they clearly did. Our founders were fully aware of this fact, stating the Constitution was for a moral and religious public. Quote, our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. John Adams. Adams is talking about men who believe like Mr. Peterson, by the way. 9 of these states required a sworn oath that Jesus Christ is Lord, in fact. There didn't seem to be very much confusion. My third argument is that the entire United States is already run like a religious institution. Men with ceremonial black robes who sit on high pedestals judge the people on judging days. Other men in black ceremonial robes give and interpret the law. We have national anthems, the etymology of which are liturgical hymns. We have dogmatic beliefs in every sense of the word. Dogmas around patriotism, American exceptionalism, a strict adherence to the concept of rights, an invisible metaphysical concept, which isn't true, but we put faith in it anyway. We persecute heretics. We call them anybody who goes against the law of the land is interpreted by the lawgivers and the law interpreters in the black robes, and they will be persecuted for it. Things like rights and other dogmas are forced on the population as a way in which they must live their life, as a sense of normative claims. Our politicians take oaths of office, often given on the Bible itself, but the fact they are giving oaths at all infers there will be some kind of divine intervention to that oath breaker. They give oaths of office just like they used to. I would argue the entire system is religious and dogmatic in its very nature, and Peterson will have to explain why those dogmas are incompatible with Christianity, or reject it, or in any way wouldn't be made better by it. My fourth argument is that blind justice makes no sense. It makes no sense absent the Christian view. This concept is uniquely biblical. Neither rich nor poor judge them the same. In a non-Christian view, there isn't really any reason at all for justice to be meted out the way we mete it out. An eye for an eye or serious punishment is just as reasoned for justice as forgiveness and rehabilitation. Why? I have 6 more arguments after this, but I think that that's probably as much as I can fit in for my opening. But let me address a couple of things before we get to the cross-examination. I agree with Mr. Peterson. You can't get an ought from an is, but then he makes this really bizarre claim. He said, Peterson says, I'm at the mercy of a should claim, but he's at the mercy of a shouldn't claim, which is also an ought claim. I don't know if he knows this or not. When you say you should not do thing, that's also an ought claim, just like saying you should do a thing. So saying we should not have Christianity in government is making a normative. When you can't criticize Islam, he says, or Christianize Islam or Christianize these people, what do they do in Finland, where all of these different denominations live together, and there's 2 state religions? Well, what happens is the 10th Amendment goes into effect, and it's up to the ethics of the population to put in the religion that they choose. Also, he says Christian ethics are barred from government, and that's actually kind of just counterintuitive and stupid. If you vote your conscience and you're Christian, that's Christian ethics. Just like that, that's Christian ethics. If you're a politician and you're voting based on your normative ethical framework and you're a Christian, you're going to be voting against abortion bills. You're going to be voting against tax bills. You're going to be voting for all sorts of different things, which you're going to rely heavily on your actual ethical framework, which is Christianity. It's already there. It's already there. And does he want to get rid of it? No. What he'll say instead is, no, I'm fine if Christians utilize the Constitution by voting in other Christians who can then amend the Constitution. So it's like, he can't even tell me that they shouldn't be there. He'll actually have to say that they should. And with that, I'll cede my time. We can get into the cross-examination.
That was perfectly timed. So we'll be moving into the cross-exams. The affirmative is going to go first. You'll have 30 minutes, and then the negative is going to have 30 minutes as well. Once again, in the cross-exams, please make sure to address your opponent's questions directly and concisely. And also, try not to turn it into your cross-exam, right? It's okay to ask a clarification question. But Eric, whenever you're ready, let me know, and I'll start your timer.
Well, real quick before you start, I'll make a deal with you, Eric. I'll answer all of your questions good faith and concisely, if you promise you'll do the same when it comes to my cross-exam.
I mean, that's what I planned on doing.
I know. I just always make that deal at the outset because, well, people often, if they go first, well, they become bad faith when it becomes your turn to cross-examine them. So if we make that deal, I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, sure. The only
All
thing,
right.
I mean, I'm going to be pretty anal about like staying to the topic of the
Good.
debate. That's
Good.
the only.
Yeah. No problem. I'm not going to divert. I'm just here to answer your questions on cross-examination for my position.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Taco, I'm ready. So just tell me when you're
Yep.
ready.
Starting the timer now. You have 30 minutes.
Okay. During the summer of 2020, the summer.
I actually don't understand how this relates to the topic, but I'm willing to engage with it, I guess, anyway. No, I would not accept that standard, but I think that the justification they were really using for BLM was different, which they were making it about social justice, though I do think there were a few leftist apologists who were definitely making the claim of social inequality.
Yeah. And okay, that's perfectly fine. I mean, without getting into like if you can do it quickly, fine. If you don't want to, then, or if you don't think you can, that's fine. But what's your position on like the redistribution of wealth in general, in welfare in general? Just kind of like for, against, or, and I think it can be done properly, but whatever.
Oh man, that's that's kind of loaded. So, generally speaking, I'm a capitalism supporter. I think that has done, as Bono rightly pointed out, it has done more to bring people out of poverty than any other system which is available. But I also believe in the charitable donations of the various peoples who follow the faith, and that they should help where they can help.
Well, personal charity and redistribute. I guess I was thinking from the lens of a bureaucratic government apparatus.
Well, I mean, it's hard. Yeah, you'd have to give me something specific. Like, do I think that the government has a right to levy taxes? Yes. Do I think that the government should levy income taxes? Probably not. I
Okay.
think there's better ways like
Okay.
tariffs or things like this. But generally speaking, I'm against a redistributive model. If you're talking about government takes from rich guy and then hands it to the poor guy, generally speaking, I would be adverse to something like that.
Okay, fair enough. So I have some quotes, and I want to read the quotes for you, and then I'll kind of get your reaction to them. Whatever certain people have in superabundance ought to go to supporting the poor.
Mm-hmm.
The next one is, it is lawful for a man to support his own need by means of another's property, by taking it, either openly or secretly. This is not, properly speaking, theft or robbery. Another one,
Wait, say that one again.
It is lawful for a man to support his own need by means of others' property, by taking it either openly or secretly. This is not, properly speaking, theft or robbery.
Okay.
Couple more. Anyone who has material possessions and sees his brother in need but does not help doesn't possess love. And this last one's not super relevant, but well,
yeah,
it's
you're
kind
talking
of
about. Well, the third one's referencing sins of omission. So there's three categories of sin, and a sin of omission would be like you can help a person, but you choose not to help a person.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Next one. Now, in human society, no man can exercise coercion except through public authority. With regards to rulers, the public powers entrusted to them, that they may be the guardians of justice. It's not exactly related to the others, but kind of in a little bit. Or will be in a little bit. So I have one more quote, but one more preface to the quote. That's the wrong position because it doesn't address root causes. Instead, they believe we should expand welfare or do reparations or whatever to lift people up, and then people just won't want to steal. I think that that's kind of like me. I don't think that that's right. I'm just curious what your take on that is.
Well, I think that you can have a multi-tiered approach. In the purpose of Christian ethics, we definitely have to keep dangerous people away from society, but we would try to focus on rehabilitative justice before we would try to focus on corrective justice, meaning, and when I say corrective in this sense, I just mean punishment. So rehabilitation would always tend to move to the forefront, though there could be exceptions to that depending. It just kind of depends on what the case use is.
Sure. To be a little more clear, the idea is that this is about before people enter the justice system. Do you agree with the idea that we should like expand welfare and things like that so that people have better means so that they don't feel like stealing? Do you think that would
No, I would adjust
help?
I would adjust policy so that you could try to steer clear of there being a need for welfare. So I think addressing things like inflation, the value of the dollar, Congress's ability to coin money,
Okay.
various things like this would be a much better route to attacking the causes of poverty rather than just handing poor people money. Ultimately, I don't think that gets at the root either.
Okay, fair enough. And then I have one more quote for you. Sorry to do that, but the quote is, and it's related to the thing about, we shouldn't be tough on crime. We should just give to the poor so that they don't want to steal. So here's a quote. There are dreadful punishments enacted against thieves, but it would be better to make such good provisions that every man might have the means to live and so be prevented from the necessity of stealing.
Yeah.
So I gave you a litany.
I actually would generally agree with that statement. But when you're talking about the conditionals for how you go about that, that may be where you would get into the argument. Like, what are the conditionals which would address the fact or the thing that made the person the thief to begin with? I don't think that it's solely going to be pointing at poverty. There's going to be a multifaceted effect counter. So.
Fair enough. In the context of the person speaking about that is kind of what they were talking about, because they were talking about people stealing. So it is material needs that aren't being met. But anyways.
Well, who's the person speaking there?
I'll tell you in just a second. So I just want to know, do you agree with...
Do you feel like you snared the trap? Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead, bro. Yes.
So do you agree with any of the logic of any of those quotes I gave to you?
They would have to be context specific. It's like, if you do what's called a quote mining, and you probably run into this all the time with academics, people will take studies, they'll quote mine from studies, or they'll quote mine from various academic papers, and then use that as an example. Flat earthers do this all the time to you evil globies, right? They take just portions of what's being said and they don't contextualize them. And so because they don't contextualize them, you don't really understand in context what they're saying. So I could easily on the surface agree with at least some of what's being said here, but I would probably need to dive into the contextualization.
Well, I'll try to pick out one that I think is actually unambiguous. And it is the idea that it was the second one, the one you had me reread. If somebody steals from somebody to support his own needs, and that person's poor and that other person is well off, then that isn't technically theft or robbery. Yeah.
Well, the thing is what you're talking about a pardonable sin. So like this is a normative fight that people have all the time in Christianity or probably in every secularism, whatever it is.
Okay. In America today, does that sound like something you would support?
I'm talking about a 19-year-old. Let's just say, like, I'd call him a kid, right? 19, but he's 19, right? He's a dummy. He did something stupid. He stole a candy bar or something like this because he didn't have enough to eat. I think that most people would probably pardon something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, the question isn't whether or not we should enact corporal punishment for it. It's whether or not it even counts as theft. And a pardon doesn't mean that you absolve the person of guilt either. So I've already used my first 10 minutes, so I kind of
I don't want to sidetrack. If you can give me the context for this, I can answer it better.
I actually don't think that these...
You don't want to give me the context, do you? Because then the trap doesn't work. Can you just give me the context and then I can answer it honestly?
See, what I think is not... Well, no, I think you're not answering because you don't... I guess I'm not really sure. I don't find these quotes to be requiring very much context. It's not theft if you don't have and you steal from somebody somebody that does, or that people with superabundance ought to give their things away. So the reason
so again, generally speaking,
Andrew, I'm reclaiming my time here. We've already gone through these, so I want to move it along. So I'm not changing the subject. I'm just moving it along.
No problem. It's your cross exam. Go ahead.
But I don't think that these things, I don't really agree that these are my politics either. And I'm a left winger, but I don't think that these agree with your politics either as a right winger. But these quotes are from Jesus, St. Thomas Aquinas, and St. Thomas More.
Yeah, well, who made that quote?
Which one?
The one you just read.
I read 4 of them. They came from
the last one. The last one that you said is unambiguous.
The second one I said is unambiguous, which was it doesn't count if it's theft. If you who said it? That's Aquinas.
Yeah, Thomas Aquinas. So the thing is Aquinas's worldview, especially Aquinas. This is why context matters, right? Because I bet a single paragraph beyond that, Aquinas would contradict himself.
No, I don't think so. I
bet he does. Go ahead, keep reading. Listen.
No, I got this from Summa Theologica, and that's actually from the. I have it pulled up here. I mean, I'm not gonna dive through. Or is it Utopia? Okay. No, Utopia is St. Thomas More's. Yeah. But I got this from the Summa, and what he does.
Thomas Aquinas was a great apologist. Don't get me wrong, but I don't agree. Aquinas is not a person that I agree with more often than not.
Okay. And that's kind of my point, because you can't just say that this isn't Christian ethics. These are some of the most important and influential people in the history of Christianity. And
agreed.
It very good. But the problem is that I think, according to you, these ideas don't really have a place in government. But these are Christian ideas.
Why?
Do you understand the problem with that?
Why are you saying that I think they don't have a place in government?
Because you said you don't agree with these ideas.
Yeah, it's just because I don't agree with an idea doesn't mean it doesn't have a place in government.
Yeah, but it's according to you.
No, the view here is, here's what the debate is. The debate is, Christians shouldn't be allowed in government. They shouldn't. Right?
No, not Christians. No. Christianity.
Christianity.
Yeah,
sorry, Christianity shouldn't be allowed in government. Fair enough. Okay, I'll go ahead and grant it, and you can reclaim your time from here too. But I just want to clarify this, that just so you understand, what does that have to do with Christianity should or shouldn't being in government? I don't actually understand that.
Because
can you help me out here?
Because if this is Christian ethics, and Andrew believes that the government needs more Christian ethics. But I can point at Christian ethics, and it says that theft doesn't count if you're poor. Then Andrew Wilson doesn't agree that Christian ethic belongs in government. Andrew Wilson doesn't agree that Christianity belongs in government.
I don't think you understand. Maybe we can start with this. What do you think Christian ethics are?
So that's a good question for your cross exam right now.
Yeah.
Planet Peterson.
Well, I mean, to answer, and he can reclaim the time. I just want to make sure that we're clear on this point, because it seems like we're talking. Do you think that inside of the ethical purview of Christianity that there's not rigorous debate? Of course there is, and not only is there, that's completely acceptable. And the idea that Thomas Aquinas could be debating across from like an Orthodox bishop would be totally acceptable.
Yeah, well, I didn't really lay out very much of this in my opening, but I think this is the problem. I think for the position that you take is that these are basically contradictions. Whatever it is that you think the government should do, Christianity, I don't think, is ultimately the source, because you'd have to reject specific Christian ethics in favor of whatever Christian ethics you want, or claim that it comes from Christianity.
But that would be the claim with any ideology which existed. Like any two, in fact, I would just say any two people which exist. That would be the case and claim would be any two people who disagree. Then therefore, the person I disagree with has no place in government. Like, that's silly. Like, I disagree with Christians on all sorts of things constantly, but when you're talking about a general normative framework, we don't disagree very much at all.
Well, I don't think you would agree with what the bishop at Trump's inauguration said, for example. So it is the case that you find, but
that's a fake bishop. Fake bishop.
Well, according to her, you're a fake bishop. She probably
no. Their denomination recognized Orthodox as being Christian. We just don't recognize theirs.
Well, that's an interesting position. But anyways, you can find justifications in whatever you want normatively in government, but you're going to find the opposite of it too. So that means Christianity holds the position of X and not X. So whatever justification or reason you have for the normative
Well, no, I think you're conflating two
objectives.
things here. So it's not that Christianity holds the position of X and not X. It's that some Christians could hold the position of X and not X.
Yes, but practicing
But I thought you just
Christian,
said Christians aren't what we're talking about, but Christianity, right?
yeah, but it's a Christian ethic developed by
Well, which
Christians
Christian
themselves.
ethics are contradicting themselves? You're talking about specific people. So I can make this argument to say, let's say I was talking about red pillars. I can say, well, this red pillar over here contradicts this red pillar, but that wouldn't tell us what the red pill was. It wouldn't tell us what the normative framework was of the red pill, let's say. So you're just talking about particulars with specific people. You're not actually talking about the ideology itself.
So for clarification, this has eaten up about 3 minutes, and this is
he can reclaim it. Look, I'm going to be super charitable here. He can definitely reclaim his time. I just want to make sure we clarify a few things. That's all.
Oh, I thought we were still on my time. I mean, I've been okay with it because I've been asking the questions I want to ask.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I have 15 minutes left then.
About, yes, sir.
Okay, that's cool with me. Anyways, I hear what you're saying, and I think the next line of questioning I have kind of gets to it. Which is okay. Okay, so were they wrong?
And well, what you're using is called a genetic fallacy. So you're trying to attack the position based on the source of the particulars. So this is actually what you're making is a fallacious argument. If you were just asking me, can you just very quickly, and again, you can reclaim your time, but can you just pull up a genetic fallacy and then tell us what it says?
Just from memory, my understanding of a genetic fallacy is because things occurred, like historically, this is what occurred, then therefore it was good or justified that those things occurred.
It's a logical fallacy where someone rejects or accepts an argument based solely on its origin or source. And so the thing is that the origin and source, and in this particular case, you're saying, wait a second, look at these particulars, and these particular people did bad things, and so therefore Christian ethics itself is in question. That seems silly. It's not actually attacking Christian ethics. You're just attacking bad things a person did and then saying somehow this relates to Christian ethics. That is quintessentially a genetic fallacy for sure. Now, if you put it in question form, I can still accept it and I'll still answer to the question, even accepting the genetic fallacy, which is like, so what? There's laws in Kentucky that I believe you can't shoot rabbits from a trolley cart. I disagree with that law too. I think it's pretty stupid. For one thing, I want to shoot rabbits from a trolley cart. That's one. But the other thing is that I would not, if I were to say to you, secular ethics were bad. Now, if I were to say they were bad because I can't shoot rabbits from a trolley cart and you disagree, therefore secular ethics bad, you would reject that, right? And rightfully so.
I'm not sure. I didn't follow the very end there that bad or that much.
Yeah, if I said to you, this law bad and person did bad thing based on this law, and then use the justification, we don't shoot rabbits from trolley carts because we're secularists. And then I applied that to all secularists. That would be the same fallacy that you're engaging in.
So genetic fallacy was already defined. This is just eating up time at this point.
Sure. So I actually think that you'll see that I'm not really doing that, but I have to kind of evolve the conversation. So we can both agree that that's wrong. And I would argue that you would probably say that what those people's positions was wrong from a Christian ethical position.
Sure.
I would wager at least. Okay, perfect. Yeah. So next question would be, do you think that the position today that the majority of Christians have are all correct? Or do you think that future Christians will look back at today and condemn certain positions that Christians hold?
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to make sure I got this right. So I'm just going to steel man this to make sure I have it correct, and then you can tell me yes or no before I answer. And again, you can reclaim your time. I just want to make sure I get it right. So the question is, has Christian ethics evolved? And will Christian ethics continue to evolve so people will look back now and say, hey, we got this wrong? Is that correct?
In a way, yeah.
Okay, well, then the answer is most assuredly yes. There's going to be all sorts of groups that we're going to point to in the future and say they got Christian ethics wrong, for sure.
Okay, so I think we kind of already answered, or you kind of already answered this, but what is it that you appeal to condemn those things I brought up earlier?
Well, I don't know. At this point, I need to understand how this is pertinent to Christians shouldn't be in government. I need to actually understand that, because now you're getting in. You started by saying you don't want to get into a normative framework, and now you're bringing it to a normative framework, which I don't understand.
I don't think I never said that. I said I don't want to get into a moral one.
That's a normative framework.
Morals?
Yeah, ought. Those are ought claims, right? You should or should not do. That's normative.
I draw a distinction between morality and normative ones.
Well, I don't understand. Well, how? If you say something is moral, you ought do what's moral, right? That's normative.
No, I don't think you can derive an ought from an is, but in normative, we can say that.
Well, how do you
discuss this?
Hang on.
Well,
help me out with this real quick.
Yeah, but Andrew, I'm not being interrogated.
Reclaim
right
the time.
now.
Reclaim the time. I just need to clarify.
I am reclaiming the time, but I'm going to answer your question.
I just need to clarify. That's all I'm asking, is for clarification. How can you describe a thing as being moral without an ought? I don't even understand that.
So that's a good question for the cross exam.
No, yeah, I need that clarified now, or I can't. I don't even know what he's asking me. So
I understand.
Just clarify it quickly.
I understand that moral systems are systems of prescriptions or whatever for taboos or claims of what you should do, like should or should not.
Yeah, so normative.
Like in a way, but I don't. Well, no, because it's not. I don't think it's the same thing as normative, because again, like what I was talking about earlier in my opening statement was, I can tell you that a compass is better at drawing a straight, or a ruler is better at drawing a straight line than a compass.
Yeah, those are
I'm not telling you it's morally wrong to draw.
Yeah, I agree. That's
morally wrong to draw bad straight lines.
Correct. That's descriptive, but that's
either.
Descriptive, though. So you're making a descriptive claim. When you say better, you're not making a normative claim. You're not saying you ought to make a better straight line. You're just saying this does make a better straight line. It's still descriptive. But when you're talking about how ought Christians do X, then those are normative. That's a normative framework that you're diving into. You're talking about oughts then. So when you're talking about descriptors, when you're saying, hey, a ruler does make a better straight line than a compass, right? That is not you should make better straight lines with rulers. These are distinct. So when you're getting into normative claims, though, right, I need you to tell me how this ties into the topic of whether or not Christians shouldn't be in government, because that's your claim.
I'm pointing out I'm going to get there very soon, and I'm going to do that by pointing out a contradiction. Taco, I have 5 minutes. Is my time paused?
I've added 7 minutes so far. There's a lot of time being taken over for other questions and whatnot.
Well, you can't give him time back. You can't give him time back for me answering questions. You can just give him time back for me clarifying them. That's what's fair.
Yeah, but I think we're now
I've
done
been
with
very
the
fair with it. It's been more than 7 minutes. So
all right, go ahead.
Peterson's cross exam.
That's fine.
Is it Taco? I didn't know that. I didn't know that, Taco.
So here's where I think the problem lies in. You're appealing to a Christian ethic to condemn what those people did in the past. I asked you about that earlier. You said yes. But that's going to happen in the future to positions that Christians hold today. So I don't understand how you can use the Bible or Christian ethics, because people in the future will judge you or other Christians to be wrong using Christian ethics.
Yeah, but can you imagine
the contradiction?
Like here, well, first of all, there's no contradiction, right? A contradiction is a proposition and its negation. There's no negation of any proposition that you've made. All you've said is
yes,
that
there is.
no,
because
no. What
yes,
you said
because
is
you're going to hold on. You're going to argue these are the things we should do. These are the things we shouldn't do. That's what slave traders and segregationists said in the past, appealing
what?
to Christianity.
That's a genetic fallacy again.
But you appeal to Christianity to say that they're
Yeah,
false.
but what's my proposition
but
and
your
its
ethic
negation?
will be used against you in the future,
bro.
meaning you
I
don't
don't know
have
why.
the correct
Listen, I
ethic
gotta
according to Christianity.
Okay, listen, so that you understand. The proposition its negation has to be mine in order for there to be a contradiction. You're saying that Christianity contradicts itself. You have to give me the proposition Christianity gives, and then its negation in order to demonstrate the contradiction. What you're doing is you're giving particulars and saying because people make the self-ID claim of X, therefore this system is flawed. Now, if somebody did that back, you would never accept it in a million years. So if somebody were to say, well, this secularist hang on, you're right. Hang on. I'm going to give you some charity here.
This is actually, I only need
ahead.
10 seconds. You're claiming that it's grounded in Christianity, but everybody at every instance has done that. And they use that logic to claim that the other person's ethic was wrong. And that's what I think the contradiction is.
Yeah, that makes no sense, though, because all you're saying is that a person can self-ID with a particular, and therefore everything will be applied to the particular, even if people don't follow the particular ethic. When you're talking about the shared value of Christendom, especially in Eastern Orthodoxy, or here, I'll give you a better example. So fascism is what really allowed for essentially interracial marriage. That was not a thing which was done until basically the Catholic Church in Italy allowed that to begin. Before that, all of human history was basically against any sort of miscegenation. And it doesn't matter what people group you're talking about, they were essentially against miscegenation. And that's what makes it a genetic fallacy. What you're doing is you're taking the history of the time period and you're associating it to the laws of the land and the particulars of the time period, and then you're moving it forward and saying, well, wait, this is what Christian ethics was. It's not. It's not what Christian ethics was. And you can't point to
but
individual...
you have Christian ethics today?
We Christian ethics, what is... Yeah, I'm trying to explain.
This is the no true Scotsman fallacy, which is implicit in the contradiction. You're sitting here saying
not a no true
they
Scotsman
weren't
fallacy.
Christians, whereas in the future, this was just going to happen again.
No, I didn't say they weren't Christians. I said that they... I didn't say they weren't... Nope. I said they weren't...
you said that they weren't using Christian ethics.
Nope, I said they violated them. So here's the thing.
Same difference.
Hang on. No, it's not the same difference. When you use a no true Scotsman, I'll explain so that you understand.
Go ahead.
When you use a no true Scotsman fallacy, you're misapplying it. If I were to say this group over here, they just weren't Christians and there's absent no justification, be a no true Scotsman fallacy. But if I say that a person follows or self-IDs an ethical framework and then doesn't follow the ethical framework itself, that's not a no true Scotsman fallacy. That's pointing to particulars in the ethical normative work and saying X person violated those ethics. And they can still self-ID as, in this case, the Scotsman, right? But that wouldn't be a no true Scotsman fallacy. Do you understand the difference there in the particulars?
Okay, there's 5 minutes left, and let's try to answer the remainder. I cannot speak. The remainder of the questions directly and concisely.
Okay. I don't think there are 5 minutes left because my timer was just about to run out. Because Andrew did say, like, hey, I'm taking over, but he can reclaim his time. But I started my stopwatch.
I added 7 minutes in total.
Well, I think you're going to end up giving me too much time. Like I'm going to try to be fair.
Okay.
I'm going to address what you said, Andrew, and then I had a bunch of questions, but there's only one more I want to ask because I don't want to take up a huge amount of time. That would look unfair. But you lost me on the no true Scotsman thing there because the issue I'm having here is you're saying that the people in the past, they violated the Christian ethic, but that's what people in the future are going to say about Christians today, and the claims, like political or whatever, that they make and they ground it in Christianity, and they'll say that there's the violation or that they violated it as well. That's what I think is the pernicious contradiction in all of this. So,
Well, even if that fallacy, like even if I granted for a second, just for the sake of argument, that it was the no true Scotsman fallacy, it still actually wouldn't be a contradiction. There's still no proposition and its negation happening at the same time. Well, all that would happen is that you could point out that I made some sort of fallacious argument, like, oh, they weren't real Christians. However, the thing is like, if you follow any ideology on planet Earth, if you're a utilitarian, for instance, but you're not acting in a fashion which is utilitarian, you're not following the normative framework of utilitarianism, it's very easy for me to say, okay, UID is a utilitarian, but you're violating the ethical purviews of utilitarianism. That's not a no true Scotsman fallacy. It's an objective statement of truth.
That's a categorical imperative type of notion that I'm hearing there. I mean, anybody
no,
can
it's not an imperative.
Anybody can fall short of anybody can fall short of what they claim they believe in. We do that all the time. But
yes.
But that's not
Christianity
the same thing
actually adjusts for
grounding what you're doing
ethics.
In what your belief is.
Yeah. So yeah, you understand Christianity actually has an adjustment for this. The idea of you shall know them by their fruits. So essentially, we can tell when people are violating Christian ethics, and our duty is to bring them back to the fold of Christianity. So when you point to just a particular of a violation of Christian ethics, that does not mean that this is on the back of Christianity. That would be a no true Scotsman fallacy. So if you're trying to say because Christians did this, and the Christian here, are saying, well, wait, they aren't real, you would actually be making that fallacy. So the thing is, like, to back it up, just so you understand, if you violate your ethical purview with self ID, that's not a no true Scotsman fallacy for me to explain that inside of the religious purview, in this case Christianity, we know them by their fruits. That's what we know them by, and we have the particulars in order to make those judgments.
The problem there is, I'll say this and I'll just move on to the last thing. You're kind of, I don't know if I would call it begging the question or whatever, but you're telling them they violated, but you're ascribing your ethic onto them and saying they violated it, instead of understanding that according to them, this is the ethic. But
so then as long as people groups at that time who are Christians also claim that they violated it, you would have no case? Does that even make sense to you?
I didn't catch that.
So if Christians at the time condemned that as being non-Christian behavior, then you wouldn't have an argument, right?
For that particular thing, but it's not as if there
right. Except you still
positions.
would. That's the problem, though. You still actually would have an argument for that particular thing. That's why the argument has no merit. It has no merit simply because you're pointing to a particular, and then you say, based on the particular, can we not look at our normative framework and see if people stepped outside of the particular? And it's like, yeah, of course we can. Of course, sure. You do it all the time. Everybody does that normative framework. We have to. By the way, begging the question
30 seconds
would be if you had a proposition, and then inside of the proposition, you put essentially what the conclusion was in the proposition itself, which is not what we're doing.
I know what begging the question here is. My last thing, though, is there anything that only a Christian is capable of believing in besides like the specific claims about like the divinity of Christ?
I don't actually understand this question. So pretend I'm a fifth grader and you're asking it to me so that I understand it.
That's time, although you can finish your...
No. Let him finish his question.
Yeah, this is the last thing. I'm not really sure how to simplify it really, but is there I'll just ask it again. Is there anything that only a Christian is capable of believing in?
Only a Christian is capable of believing in. I mean, I don't think so. I guess if I understand what your question is, can anybody believe in anything? Is that the correct way to maybe rephrase that? No.
I'm specifically trying to get at, is Christianity privileged? And my time is up, so I'll just end with the point I'm trying to make here. And you say no, I think the answer is no as well. And then I think that's kind of devastating for, well, Christianity we don't need it in government, because if anybody's capable of believing whatever it is you're trying to get the government to do, then anybody can believe it, and it's not sourced via Christianity.
that's a very confusing argument to me as well, and I would love to dissect it, and I guess I can in a second with my cross-examination. But I'm just trying to understand. I guess I would need more clarity to even understand what you were asking. But anyway,
Sure.
if you're ready for the cross-examination, I am too.
So we'll be moving into your cross-exam now. It'll be 30 minutes as well. If obviously, feel free to reclaim your time. If something's going on, you can ask questions and get back on topic. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll go ahead and start your timer. And once again, try to answer the questions directly and concisely.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm ready when you are, Mr.
Perfect.
Peterson.
Yeah.
So I hope I answered your question satisfactory as I think I could. I hope you do the same for me. So, starting with this, do you have any problems with Christians being in government?
No, to the extent that a Christian holds because it's not should Christians be in government, it's Christianity.
I know. Just so none of these are going to be loaded, and none of these are going to be gotchas. I just want to make sure that I'm clarifying a couple things. First and foremost, just yes or no. Do you have any problems with Christians being in government?
No, because to the extent that a Christian holds beliefs and they act on them and whatever those beliefs are, to the extent that those beliefs overlap with the limits of government put in the Constitution, that's not a problem. I don't think it's a contradiction.
And inside of the Constitution, what can you explain very quickly what the process is for an amendment?
You need, I don't remember the specific numbers. You need 3/4 of the states to ratify it. As far as Congress, I don't know if it's 2/3 or what.
Yeah. So there's multiple ways to make an amendment.
It has to be ratified by the states for it to count. Because we famously had this recently. There's something Joe Biden was trying to get in there, some equal protections thing. And
you think 3/4 of the state came together for every amendment in the Constitution, really?
I mean, historically, like weird things have happened. There didn't used to be primaries 100 years ago, but now we do have them. So.
Yeah. So anyway, so back to this. By the way, that's just factually inaccurate. But the thing is like that aside, we'll just leave that aside for a second. Let me just ask you, and I'm reclaiming my time on this. I'm kidding. Let me just ask you this. If Christians then, if you have no problem with them being in office, if there was such an overflow of the numbers, because that was the representation that people wanted, they voted in Christians and they made an amendment to get rid of the First Amendment, which they're completely well within their rights to do. What's the problem with that?
So our Constitution has a system where you can amend amendments, the 21st or 2nd, whatever, undid prohibition or whatever.
Well, no, you can just undo amendments altogether.
Yeah, with amendments, but I mean, the problem with, I think the problem with this is, that wouldn't be, if you amend the First Amendment, then I can just say, well, then we can just re-amend it because it was wrong of them to amend it in the first place. So
sure. Yeah. You could re-amend it after you get power back. But if Christians actually have power, what is your actual argument against them amending the First Amendment, which is prescribed in the Constitution that they can do?
I don't have an argument that they can't do it. The First Amendment says that is something that can be done.
Should they not be able to do that?
Well, it's kind of weird because we have an establishment clause. So if they did that,
well, yeah, I mean, but we used to have a slavery clause, right?
Then it would be.
But hang on, Mr. Peterson, we used to have a slavery clause, right? And we amended that.
You used to have a slavery clause?
Yeah, we used to be able to own slaves. That was yes.
That's not none of the first 12 amendments said you can own slaves. That's completely false.
I'm sorry, hang on. Back up. Hang on. Stop. It's not your cross-examination here. Okay, just so that you know, though, you do realize that there were state constitutions which said you can own slaves, right?
Before secession happened?
Mm-hmm.
It specifically said that they could own slaves? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, specifically. And also, you do realize there was a 3/5 clause, right?
Yeah, black people counted as 3/5 of a person.
So all those things need to be amended, right?
Well, if the Constitution gets changed, then that becomes federal law, and then it supersedes the state constitution.
Right. So at the federal level, if Christians went ahead and amended the First Amendment, what's the problem?
Well, I think it would be wrong because I think that's a violation of what the First Amendment says. And
yeah, but
normatively,
wait, that's circular. The Constitution is set up so that we can amend amendments, yes or no?
Yeah.
So if it is the case that it's set up for us to do that, if Christians have power and you have no problem with Christians having power and they amend that amendment, what's the problem?
Because the framers of the Constitution set up the ability to amend the Constitution with respect to being able to produce a more, a better, well, a more better union, or however they say it.
Yeah, but that,
but
who are you to determine what's better? Who are you to determine that? Wouldn't it be the people who are elected? You want people to be elected by their constituency, yes or no?
Well, yeah.
Okay, and if the people who are elected by their constituency are Christians, you have no problem with that, yes or no?
No.
So then if those people who are elected by their constituency want to amend the First Amendment, that is the process that you want to be allowed to happen, right?
No, because you didn't let me. You didn't let me finish my answer.
Okay, go ahead.
Right, because the framers of the Constitution, they built that system, and there are people that said we don't want a Bill of Rights. That was the first election. That was the one of the biggest issues up for that, because we didn't have a Bill of Rights at first, but they did that in order to. They thought that was their way, that in the future they'd be able to keep having a more functional, a better union, a better constitution, a better government. But they initially said no state government, because that will that
well, I don't know.
Dysfunctional government.
That's very undemocratic.
So it would be in violation
Mr.
of
Peterson, that's undemocratic. Do you agree with me that that's not democratic? For you to say that we cannot change the First Amendment by democratic means, that's actually undemocratic, correct?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I don't understand. Is the capacity there for us to do it? Is it written into the Constitution that we can do this? And you don't have a problem with Christians being elected by their constituency?
No.
So what is your actual problem with Christians changing this if it's within the very system that you want them to change it in? Literally, your system is, I want to elect person goes in representing the constituency. All these people get together and they amend the First Amendment. That is the system that you want, right?
I don't want them to. The idea that amendments can be made means that I have to accept that the First Amendment should be amended. Is not a real case.
No. You don't have the should. You have the shouldn't. I want to know why it is that Christians shouldn't do that, other than because you don't like it.
Because, well, it'd be a violation of the spirit of the purpose of a constitutional.
It doesn't
republic.
Sound like it. It sounds like the purpose of a constitution. No, it doesn't sound like it. Well, hang on. How would it violate the purpose of a constitutional republic if this is the framework of the constitutional republic, sir?
Because a government is supposed to outline a constitutional republic, sets limitations, and like there are other things that like it allows for.
Yes, I agree. The constitutional republic sets limitations, and in these limitations, it says that you can amend the First Amendment. Yes or no?
Yeah, but you're not.
This is the system you want, dude.
To trash. No, because you're not supposed to make amendments to make the system dysfunctional. It's like saying, "Hey, I own an engine, right? Yeah, and I want to win the Daytona 500, right? Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to dump a bunch of nails into my engine.
Wait.
You're not going to win the Daytona 500. You can't tell me I can't.
I'm going to reclaim my time.
Silly.
Okay.
What makes that dysfunctional? What makes it dysfunctional if they got rid of the First Amendment when we have countries, by the way, which I just cited in my opening, that don't have this separation? In fact, England, they have a state church as well. Many European nations have state churches. What actually would make the nation dysfunctional? It seems like it would function just fine. The states could then ratify the amendments of their own for their own state religions. They can do that. They practically do now, like Utah. Utah is basically Mormon. Whether you like it or not, it basically is. What would actually make it dysfunctional?
So, like, you can cherry pick those countries if you want, but we have studies. High religiosity and societal dysfunction in the United States during the first decade of the 21st century of the 20th
okay. So then should we
century.
select for?
So it can be statistically demonstrated.
Back up.
And I have a
very
global
quickly.
study as well.
I only have so much time. I agree
Mhm.
with you. You have studies, right, that say that religiosity makes you dysfunctional. How come you don't quote the studies that say high IQ make you dysfunctional? Should we start selecting for people who have a high IQ because it makes them more dysfunctional? Because it does. The higher your IQ, the more dysfunctional you get. You want studies on it? I have them in the boatloads. That's why you see people who have all sorts of issues when it comes to social behavior. The higher their IQ is, makes you totally dysfunctional. Do you want to outlaw that? No high IQ people in office?
You mean low IQ people?
No, high IQ makes you dysfunctional. High. Yeah. You
That's
have a really,
bizarre.
really? Is it?
Go for it.
Very quickly, I'm just going to go through this. You can't actually explain how the nation itself would become dysfunctional because we amended the First Amendment, because the constituency sent up Christians and they did that. You have to tell me how that would actually make the nation dysfunctional.
If you're asking me to tell you what if this happened, what would specifically be the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing that would happen? I mean, I can't tell you a story of something that hasn't happened, which is why we refer to studies.
You just can't back your claim up.
No, I have studies that
you have studies that say that
high religiosity really.
Not only that, let's just point out that also secularism has trouble with reproduction. Don't you think that it's dysfunctional if you're not reproducing? That's one. And two, you still have not demonstrated. Don't address it. I'm making a statement. It's my cross-examination. You have not demonstrated how the nation would become dysfunctional because people used your system, the one that you want, to make amendments. Like, if the system says you can, based on their religiosity, to get rid of the First Amendment. You have not demonstrated that would make the system dysfunctional, only claimed it, demonstrated.
So I'll talk about the low birth rates and then I'll do that.
No, I don't want to hear about low birth rates. It wasn't a question I asked. It was a statement I made. Answer the question I asked you.
That seems
Answer the
unfair.
Question I asked you.
But you brought it up, and
Answer the question
I feel I need to address
you.
it.
You can address it when you get back to your time for open debate. This is my cross-examination. Please answer the question I asked.
Okay. The second thing, sorry, what was the second thing?
Yeah, I will just do this very quickly. Okay. Just so that very quickly, I got to reclaim my time.
Yeah.
So the question I'm asking you, you need to be, you have to demonstrate that it would actually be dysfunctional. That's your claim. I don't want to hear about demonstrations that religiosity can lead some people to become more dysfunctional. I would need to know how the nation itself is going to become dysfunctional because you get rid of the part in the First Amendment that says that Congress has to respect every establishment of religion. I need to know how does that make the nation actually dysfunctional to get rid of the establishment clause?
The studies I was referring to, they weren't talking about it wasn't about individuals. It's about the country as a, one does it by a state basis. The other does it was a more national study. But for example, I mean, I can prove that even according to you, there seems like some pretty damning information, because I'm pretty sure that you're not in favor of
the contradiction. I'll explain the contradiction in terms real quick. Even if it were the case that right this second, okay, religious people, it was correlated with teen pregnancy and all of these different things. These people are free to exercise that religion now. So wouldn't it be the case if they weren't free to exercise that would actually lower those rates?
I don't know what that could possibly have been an argument for, because what you find is all those things I brought up are highest among the most religious states. So the more religious you are, the more in this country, the more teen pregnancy you have.
Yes, but if Congress doesn't have to respect the establishment of religion anymore, right? They can say that you can't practice unhealthy religions, can't they?
What?
Answer my question. Couldn't they say that?
That didn't make any sense.
What didn't make any sense? Do you want me to answer? I'm going to ask you again. If it were the case that the Establishment Clause was gone, couldn't Congress then not respect religions which were unhealthy for the society? Can you answer my question, dude?
It's such a bizarre question that doesn't make any sense because
the Establishment
Clause doesn't ban religions. It says that Congress will not make a state religion. It doesn't say that Congress doesn't have the ability to ban religion. It says that Congress will not impose religious law onto the population.
It says the free exercise thereof. You are wrong, sir. So yes, if you got rid of the Establishment Clause, the free exercise thereof would be gone. So
the Establishment Clause is not the same thing as you are allowed to practice your religion.
Yes, it is. It says the free exercise thereof. I'll read it for you, sir. Here, we'll read it. Because apparently you don't even know what it says. Okay. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Do you understand? The free exercise thereof. So if you got rid of that, they could prohibit the free exercise thereof, correct?
Sure. So we would get rid of Christianity.
So then it is the case that if Congress then no longer had to respect the free exercise of religion, they could actually go through and stop the bad behaviors of bad religions, couldn't they?
Yeah, which would be Christianity.
Okay, so do you think that there's any other religions in the United States which are worse than Christianity?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so then if Christians were in power and stopped the free exercise thereof of those religions, wouldn't that be good?
No, I don't think that would be good.
Oh, okay. So then when you say shouldn't, Christians shouldn't be in power, right?
Never said that.
That's your whole claim. Your whole claim is that Christianity shouldn't be in government.
And you completely changed it by saying Christians shouldn't be in power.
We're saying the same thing.
Christianity shouldn't be in power.
You think
no, we're absolutely not.
What's the semantic distinction?
Because what you're talking about, Christians shouldn't be in government, means banning people that practice a certain religion from serving in government. I don't believe in that.
No. The semantic distinction between power and government. Clearly, if Christians have governmental authority, they have power. We're talking about the same thing. We're not talking past each other here. So the thing is, very quickly, because I only have so much time, if it is the case that Christians shouldn't be in government, but if Christians were...
That's not my claim.
Your claim isn't that okay, Christianity shouldn't be in government.
Yes.
Okay. So wait a second. So if Christians are in government, Christianity is not in government?
I address this earlier because I said if a Christian serves in government and their beliefs overlap with the current structure of the Constitution or whatever, then there's no problem with that, because the Establishment Clause doesn't say we will ban, or we're going to do the opposite of all religions, because
that would help me. Okay, bro. So anytime Christians then who utilize their normative ethical authority for things like abortion in government, that's wrong. They shouldn't do that. If
they're imposing their specific religious beliefs on other people, then that's a violation of, I think that creates dysfunctional governments. That's a violation of the First Amendment. Even if you argue that we could just get rid of the First Amendment, I think history shows us that creates dysfunctional governments.
Yeah. Hang on. No. Government's this doesn't make, bro, you got to back way. Okay, we got to back way up.
Real fast, just under 10 minutes remaining. I did add about a minute and a half for clarifications.
Appreciate it. Okay, so just very quickly, Mr. Peterson, if the Supreme Court justices are Catholic, and a lot of them are now, and they're interpreting the law, right? They're also using, part of their interpretation is going to be their normative ethical framework, because that's how interpretation works. Mm-hmm. If they're using their Christian normative ethical framework, do you actually have a problem with that?
So if I had a problem with that would mean that I would just have to ban Christianity, but that doesn't actually make any sense. A Christian, we went over this earlier, anybody can believe whatever a Christian believes at the same time. So we can't just ban them from serving in government. That just wouldn't make any sense.
Then your
Even
whole
if-
proposition's destroyed. If the idea is
No.
Christianity shouldn't be in government, but Christians can go in and rule based on their normative ethics, then you don't have a claim. Your claim's destroyed. Listen, I'm just going to, I'll give it to you in premises. I'm going to give it to you in premises so that you understand, right? Christians should be allowed in government. True or false?
True.
Christians in government should be allowed to reference their normative framework when making decisions in a governmental role. True or false?
Not exactly true.
What does that mean?
Because they can believe in things that are in congruence with the Constitution and with everybody else in general, and that can happen to be something Christians believe in. They're not the only ones that believe in the golden rule.
Yeah, but they can amend the
for example.
Constitution. They can just amend the Constitution. And then if they do amend the Constitution, they can, any of their normative framework, they followed your entire law.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right?
Yep.
So then why shouldn't they be allowed to do that?
First of all, because as I've said a whole bunch of times, I think it creates dysfunctional governments. But this would also lead to potentially Andrew Wilson being subject to whatever the Pope says, because maybe that's the Christian framework we end up with, but you reject that. So according to Andrew Wilson doesn't want this to happen.
What are you what kind of weird straw man nonsense is this? According to Andrew Wilson, to grill Andrew Wilson's view, your view, sir, is that it's perfectly acceptable for Christians to change the Constitution if they are elected by their constituency. Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, so then if Christians who are elected by their constituency change the Constitution in order to allow Christian stuff, whatever you think that is, how can you possibly say that they shouldn't be able to do that when this is the proposition itself? That they shouldn't be in government, yet they should be allowed to go in and change every facet of government. That, sir, is its proposition and its negation, an actual contradiction.
Because it creates dysfunctional governments. And the other thing is, like, it's
a totally functional government, dude. Totally functional. What do you mean? It's following your rules. Christians go in, they change it via an amendment, and then they rule based on the changed amendments, which is exactly what you claim we should be doing.
It's like calling fascism a functional government. It
was a functional government.
That doesn't mean that I accept it or that I think it's good.
But your whole claim here is like, it's dysfunctional to not allow Christians to serve in government. It's it's dysfunctional to not allow Christians to serve in government. If Christians go into the government and serve and then amend the Constitution, which they're allowed to do because they're in government, and then change it to make a bunch of whatever Christian stuff legal that you don't like, right? They're literally following your very process. So your proposition is Christianity shouldn't be in government, but its negation is, yes, Christians should be in government and should be allowed to change the amendments in government so that, yes, they should be allowed to do this. Should be allowed to change the amendments in government. No, Christians shouldn't be allowed to change amendments in government if they're elected.
No, I'm just disagreeing with. I know where this is going already. That's why.
It's your proposition and its negation, and I'll just give it to you again. And I really do need a response to this. The proposition is Christianity shouldn't be in government. Its negation is, okay, Christians should be allowed in government and they should be allowed to change anything they want in government as long as they're following the rules that are there. And then when they change the rules, which is completely fine, right, for Christian-y stuff, you don't have a problem with that because that's the form of government.
I do have a problem with that because...
What's the problem?
Just because it can be done, like we have open elections, so it's theoretically possible. So this is, I'm not trying to give you a Weasley answer. But it's like free speech. I don't think it's good. I don't like it when the government says these are the things you should and shouldn't say. But that doesn't mean that I find
Should
it
Nazis
acceptable
be
for that.
allowed to serve in government? Yes or no?
No, but I
No.
don't think that it should be illegal for a Nazi to be in the government. That's the difference.
So they should be allowed to serve in government.
If you frame it that
One
way,
more
yeah.
time. Should Nazis be allowed to
Answer.
serve in government? Yes or no?
In that framing, then
Okay, so
yes,
real
I
quick,
don't
I'm
think
going to
it
ask
should
you
be
again. I need it
illegal.
specifically answered. Should Nazis be allowed to serve in government? Yes or no?
It shouldn't be illegal. So yes,
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay, so hang on.
If you're trying to
Hang
get
on.
me
I
to
just
be
want to
like,
make sure. Hang on.
Peterson
No. I'm
likes
not
the
trying
idea
to.
of
Bro, I'm
Nazis
not
in
trying to clip
government.
it. I'm just
I
trying
think it
to
would
show
be
you
good.
that
Yeah.
if it's the case, then that Nazis who should be allowed to be in government go.
Again, this is odd because it's like can versus should.
No, should.
I think it would be wrong.
No. Stop.
Because we know
There-
fascism
no,
isn't
bro.
a functional kind of government.
Listen to me. If you say Nazis should be allowed in government, then they should be allowed to do their job in government, right?
If they should be, then they should. Again, that doesn't mean that I accept whatever amendments they would
just
do and that they
answer
are
my
good.
question. I'm not asking you for qualifiers. I'm not interested. I just want you to actually answer the questions I ask. Should Nazis, if they're in government, do their job? Should they do their job that they were put
Yeah.
there to do? So if the constituency of a bunch of Nazis puts Nazis in the government to do the job of changing the amendments to make it more Nazi-ish, they should do that.
Functional government, no.
If 2/3 of the states elected Nazis and they went to Capitol Hill, okay, and they said, hey, we want a new amendment that says there's going to be a new Third Reich, right? Somewhere. I don't know how they phrase it, okay? They should be allowed to follow the process of government. Not is the amendment good or bad? I'm not asking that should claim. Only should they be allowed to do that based on the prescription of the government that you advocate for?
I guess technically, yes. That doesn't mean
Yes.
it has my
Okay.
endorsement or
Then-
that I think it would be functional.
Perfect. I'm not saying you endorse it, bro.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not saying you endorse it.
There's
Yeah,
a
I know.
minute and
So
a half
often-
remaining.
Okay, very quickly. Then this same logic would apply to Christianity. Should Christians be allowed to serve in government? Yes. Should, if they're there, should they do their job based on what their constituency wants? Yes. And if they follow all of the laws in order to make Christian stuff, they should be allowed to do that. Also, yes. The proposition is now negated. This is a performative contradiction you've been caught in. Because when you say Christianity shouldn't be in government, however, Christians should be allowed to change government to make it into Christianity, you negated your own proposition.
I just don't agree on that at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, logic
Because
disagrees
the
with you.
reasons that I stated Christianity shouldn't be in government are because that would make it could potentially or could whatever, it doesn't matter, lead to a more dysfunctional government, one that disenfranchises people.
Let me ask you one last question. Just one last question.
What we'll be doing is we'll be going through questions. I got a list of questions on the YouTube. We'll go through that. Also, if you are not on the server yet, join discord.gg/politics. Once again, discord.gg/politics. And you can join the live chat and actually raise your hand and engage with them with a live question. I can set the timer for 30 minutes if you guys just want to do 30 minutes. Or if you're okay with taking more than that, we can just go by air and then we'll move into the conclusions.
Well, very quickly, Taco. I did want to say very quickly, I know that was a very aggressive cross-examination, but I don't hold any bad feelings towards you, man. Right? This is a debate. My job's to represent my worldview the best that I possibly can. And so, I'm always aggressive in cross-examination, but no hard feelings there.
No, I mean, that was by far the chillest Andrew Wilson debate that's ever taken place, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Oh, no. Go ahead.
at least that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Cool. And once again, that's discord.gg/politics. Do you guys have any questions about how we're going to do the question and answer? If not, I'll just go over the basics with it. No? Cool. So the program here, we're going to pull people up. You guys will get a question. If you need to clarify something, that's fine. There's a lot of people that have questions, so let's try not to ask 4 questions back to back. If you want to raise your hand again later, you're welcome to, if they're willing to give us some time. Do you want me to set the timer for 30 minutes, or are you guys all right with going until whenever?
Well, I have another place I got to actually be in about 15 minutes. This went a little over what I thought
gotcha.
I'd be, but I'm happy to stay and answer a few questions anyway.
Gotcha. So if you only have 15
Sorry,
minutes...
I'm preparing for a trip. I'm heading out soon, so
that's fine. You can give him all the, do all the Andrew questions.
So I think it would be better to move into the conclusions then, and then we'll do that was ideally going to give you some ammo for the conclusions, right? But we can move into the conclusions, and then we'll pull up some Andrew questions, and then if you want to stick around, Eric, you can answer some questions as well. But at least that way we'll get you where you need to be on time, right? Does that sound good to both of y'all?
I appreciate it, and thank you for giving me a little bit of leeway. I did very much enjoy the debate.
Cool. Yeah, and there was a lot of clarifying in the first one, so I wanted to make sure that we were addressing everything appropriately, right? But with that being said, we'll go ahead and move into the conclusions then. The affirmative is going to go first, so Planet Peterson, that's going to be you, and then Andrew, you'll do your conclusion after. You'll have 5 minutes for each of those, and then I'll try to pull up some Andrew questions, and then Eric, you can answer some questions as well.
Sure. There are so many things that I thought we would get into that we didn't end up getting into, and that's every debate I've ever had is kind of like that. But I think the main issue I have with the position that Christianity should be in government would come from the things I laid out before, whereas the Christian ethic is completely nebulous, and Christians across time, but even in the current moment, have wildly different ideas about what we should or shouldn't do. Like I brought her up earlier, but the bishop that spoke at Trump's inauguration, that's one kind of Christian ethic. Nick Fuentes has a radically different Christian ethic. And so because of all the contradictions, and then the temporal thing where Christians in the 20th century condemned Christians in the 19th century, but will in turn be condemned by Christians of the 21st century based on Christian ethic, means whatever goals you have for the government, whatever like prescriptions or whatever you want to give, I think ultimately are coming from something other than Christianity. And the other thing, I'll touch on I don't know, maybe just like one thing that I thought would get brought up just to kind of make a case on it or whatever, but I thought maybe we would be talking about birth rates or something like that. But I think all these appeals fall short, because what these typically are is arguments about, look, Christians in the world or in the population are like having more children, which is better. Well, we don't need Christianity in government in order to have that in our country. The Christians just happen to have more kids. Okay, you can be a Christian in this country. There's no mandate for be fruitful and multiply that needs to go into the government, that needs to be amended into the Constitution for that. So you don't need Christianity in government. So I just think the case is kind of weak, but that's just what I think. So that's my closing statement.
Perfect. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll start your timer.
Yeah, so I'm ready. So just very quickly to go over the closing here. We caught Mr. Peterson in a contradiction. So the proposition was Christianity shouldn't be in government, but we figure out very quickly that not only are Christians should be allowed to serve in government, but they should be allowed to follow the processes of government in order to change government to make it all Christian if they want to. They should be allowed to do that. So him saying Christianity shouldn't be allowed in government is actually negated. His own proposition gets negated by him the second he tells you that within the framework of this government, he has no problem with Christians making it a Christian government. That negates the proposition of shouldn't be able to. It's like it's absurd. It's like it's the silliest thing I've ever seen in my life. Not only that, there was a whole bunch of things that we touched on, like For instance, we went over the fact that, hey, there's other nations which have state churches. He says, well, religiosity leads to dysfunction. Well, I guess the happiest nation, Finland, then must be real dysfunctionally happy, right? Must be really dysfunctionally happy since they have state churches. And now, to kind of give some leeway and credit to him, it does remind me of a great joke, which is, you know why it's the happiest. Back to this. There was a ton of things. We got into the normative framework of ethics, which he brought up. I didn't even bring it up. I was keeping it on topic. I don't even think he understands what Christian ethics are, or that it's not a no true Scotsman fallacy at all. If you say, oh, those people violated this ethical purview, and here's why, based on A, B, and C, you saying that this person who self-IDs as the thing violates the actual values of the thing is not a no true Scotsman fallacy. It's totally absurd. If that was the case, then anytime a secularist ever did anything wrong, we just say, well, look at what secularists do, right? It wouldn't make any sense at all. There would have to be, in utilitarian ethics, for instance, it would have to be, well, there's X amount of negative utils, and I believe in that, but I'm causing negative utils. Another person would easily point to that and say, well, then you're violating utilitarian ethics. It wouldn't be that, well, there's no true utilitarian, right? That wouldn't make any sense. It's not a no true Scotsman fallacy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. There was a whole bunch of times, in fact, like, you should stick with science, man. Maybe philosophy is not your jam, but ultimately on this,
are you ceding the rest of your-
anyway, with that, I'll cede my time.